Good morning for those on the East Coast and on the West Coast, I meant, and good afternoon for those on the East Coast. My name is Fred Parisa. I'm chairing this webinar host, and I'm just delighted to present you with the speakers. But before that, I'd like to just kind of give you a brief overview what NADEC is, and I'll spell that out. It's National Association of District Export Councils, and we represent all 50 states, and each member, which is unique about NADEC, is appointed by the Secretary of Commerce. We represent approximately 1,800 members, and they represent manufacturers, service sectors, anything across the country. So I think from that perspective, given that there's a government shutdown this last week, I'm also going to be temporarily putting in my former government Department of Commerce hat on as the former director and talk to you a little bit, what's the relationship between the National District Export Council and the U.S. Department of Commerce, and they're definitely a key partners. One of the things is that they are tremendous supporters for U.S. exporters. And for those of you that are not familiar, pull up www.ita, usdoc.ita.gov. And Heidi, if you could just put that website on there. And one of the things that we're talking about is the Commerce Department. They have well over 160 offices in all 50 states. In addition to that, they have presence in every country primarily. For example, if you want to do business in Canada, Mexico, Asian countries, you simply pull up that website, www.ita.gov/ with the country name on it. And that gives you a brief overview in terms of how it works. Now, how does the Department of Commerce work closely as it relates to ATA Carnet? You'll find that they are tremendous help on that. And Kyle, who I will be shortly introduce you, he started as we were just kidding around when 10 years old, just kidding, Kyle, but he brings a tremendous background in terms of international trade and support a U.S. exporter. I myself had the opportunity when I was the head of corporate export-import operation for Hughes Aircraft, General Motors, back in the days, that we utilize a big company like General Motors, utilize his company, ATA Carnet. So official title is ATA Carnet and Communications Specialist for the company Boomerang Carnets, who's been around for many years. He's got extensive experience and expert knowledge covering Carnet usage, Carnet countries, as well as foreign and domestic customer services. Kyle guides client and industry from, of course, like General Motors, Fortune 500 companies, to symphony orchestras, manufacturers. I like that, symphony orchestra. Manufacturers to film production crews, individuals to small, medium, and many of you are on the line as representing SME companies, and large enterprises. He's licensed bond and insurance advisor for ATA Carnet and international travel. He has expertise in training. He obviously does that, training and mentoring and coaching companies. And he'll talk a little bit more about that. In February 20 of 25, by an invitation from the Association of Unmanned Vehicle System International, AUVSI, Carl gave a presentation on the benefits of ATA Carnet used to the rapidly growing global unmanned industry in Dusseldorf, Germany. I just got back from there last week. Having said that, Carl is based out of ATA Carnet National Service Center, headquartered in Cary, Illinois, and joined Boomerang in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kyle Urson.
Thank you very much, Fred, for that warm introduction. And let me go ahead and switch over to sharing my screen. While I do that, thank you very much for having us and everybody in attendance today. We're going to be talking about ATA Carnets. So even if you do have some experience, hopefully you will be able to glean at least a little bit of new information or knowledge. Hopefully this is now coming across in presentation mode. Fred, can you confirm that looks good?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. But even, especially if you don't, then you'll definitely have a lot to learn. We've got a pretty tight time, so some of this, when we get a little bit deeper into the weeds, I might breeze through it just so we can save time for question and answer. But this is me. Again, my name is Kyle Urson. It's just spelled funny. It looks like Keel, said like Kyle. I've been with the company just shy of 10 years now. In addition to issuing ATA Carnets, one of the hats that I wear is doing stuff like this. I've spoken at trade shows, conferences. I've done training for mom and pop companies directly to Fortune 500 companies, as Fred was saying. I've done it for customs directly, spoken on panels, but that's part of my role here is to spread the good word of ATA Carnets, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Little brief overview as far as the agenda. We'll start with some intro remarks, then we'll go into a more broad strokes overview of the ATA Carnet itself. We'll delve a little bit deeper into the usage and a review of the document itself. And then we'll wrap it up with the fun stuff, the benefits of why you should be using a Carnet if you're not, and why it's helping you if you are. First section here, overview. We'll start with what it is. Obviously, it's a good place to start. Talk a little bit about the countries and territories which do accept it. As far as a little bit of history, historical context, it is a tool for international trade facilitation. It entered the ATA Carnet International Convention, entered into force in the early 1960s. At that point, it was a kind of handful of Western European countries, but it did grow up until today, and it's still growing the system into most of the industrialized world. Actually, 2023 and 4 were big years for us. We got a bunch of new countries on. Um, Vietnam came on. That was great. Kazakhstan is recent. We got Philippines. We got Peru. Big year for us. We got Saudi Arabia, which was huge. So it's always growing. Currently, there are 90 or so, 90 plus countries and territories that are part of the convention. And to be part of the ATA convention, it means you both issue ATA carnets for your exporters to be used for their temporary exports, but you also accept them for foreign countries coming into your country. So it's a bilateral system. Each year, more than 200,000 ATA carnets are issued internationally, covering an aggregate value of goods more than $30 billion. So it's a very large system, very large scope. Each Carnet country has what we call a National Carnet Guaranteeing Association. Most all countries, it's their Chamber of Commerce. The US does things a little bit differently. Our guaranteeing association is the United States Council for International Business. So they're the guarantor. They have appointed only us and one other company in the entire country to be a service provider to physically issue the carnets on behalf of US exporters, or what we call in our world the holders. It's not who's physically holding on to the document. We'll get to that in a little bit. That's what we call an authorized representative, but it's the liable party. It's whom owns and or assumes the duty and tax liability of the goods. So usually it's a company, but we do issue them to individuals as well. But what is it? I always read this part off verbatim. I do believe it bears well worth repeating. It is an international unified customs document, and it provides for temporary import to duty and tax deferment for three main categories of goods into a worldwide system of countries. So the carnet and the bond that goes behind it, the financial guarantee to customs, is what allows you to import your professional or commercial equipment on a temporary basis and then re-export without getting hit with the often very high import duties and taxes, because it's an agreement that, look, this is a temporary import. These goods are going in. They are coming back out in X amount of time. And you know, because I'm holding this carnet, there's a financial guarantee that backs it at the full amount that duty and tax could range up to that says, look, goods are going in, they're coming back out. And if not, you know that there's a guarantee in place. You're going to get your duty and tax money one way or another. So they defer the assessment on the import. It's almost like an easy pass through customs as far as the duty and tax part of it. And they would only assess if you did end up ultimately selling or converting to a home use or permanent import. Those three categories we mentioned are what we call the underlying intended use conventions. They are three. They are universal across the system. There's three and only three. You have to pick one for your carding to be issued under. You could pick two. You could pick all three if applicable, but they are commercial samples. So if you are an OEM or a fashion or jewelry designer and you're going to demo your wares more on a private appointment type basis to try to drum up business. Hey, look at this beautiful set of jewelry that I have. You would file it under commercial samples. Professional equipment is exactly what it sounds like. Anytime you are bringing the goods into the country to be used in their professional or commercial capacity, tools of the trade, as Fred had mentioned, statewide symphony orchestras, our customers are, rock and roll bands, medical research, Boeing, multi-million, if not billion-dollar airplanes going on Carnets. A huge, huge user of one of, if not the largest users, probably is the film production industry. If you can imagine bringing 500,000 or 750K worth of fancy camera equipment to go film a documentary or a film in China, nobody wants to pay duties and taxes on the goods that you are going to just be filming with and not selling on the streets. So you put it on a carnet and you don't get hit with those duty and taxes. Um, Last is exhibitions and fairs, another big, big user of the carnet. So if you're going to exhibit at an international trade show and you've got your samples, your LED screens, your booth itself, um, anything that's going in for that exhibition type purpose, you would file it under exhibitions and fairs. So the by and large, it's a very universal system. That's one of the nice things about the Carnet is how broad its scope of use is and how universal and how malleable it is. Most countries out of the 90 or so that are a part of this thing will accept for all three classifications. Mostly it's universal. Certain countries are pickier than others. Qatar, for instance, only accepts carnets under exhibitions and fairs. India does professional equipment and exhibitions and fairs, but not commercial samples. But mostly it's universal, but that's part of my job. And my operations team job is the issuing agent. When you submit your application, tell us where you definitely are, where you might go throughout the year. And it's part of our job to guide you on how your carnet should be issued. We'll make sure your list looks good. It's pretty much bulletproof before it leaves our office. Another nice thing about the carnet is you both gain that duty and tax deferment entering into the foreign country, but also coming back into the US or whatever your origin country may be. Certain other forms of temporary import, you're only handling the foreign side. So you would have to file like a US goods returned entry to get it back in. But because the carnet is also serves as registration of the goods with US Customs as it is validated by US Customs prior to departure, you're gaining that benefit both entering into the foreign country and then also coming back. Um, Goods allowable on a carnet, pretty much virtually everything. I've been, again, here just under 10 years. I've seen everything you could think of and more listed on carnets. There's a brief list over here. It's in no way an exhaustive list, but aircraft, UAVs, artifacts, we put ancient Egyptian relics, we've put plasticized human remains for museums, jewelry, demo equipment, livestock. We put horses on carnets. It's kind of become one of the running jokes on my team. I've become this horse carnet guy over the last few years for a lot of horses in the Oregon and Washington and California area going into Canada to exhibit, but you wouldn't think of it, but it's not your, laptop, cell phone, and luggage. It's, technically professional or commercial equipment of value that you could turn around and sell. So musical instruments, defense equipment, film equipment, repair, tools of the trade, research, trade show displays. The list is literally endless, except for a couple. Consumable or disposable items. So if you're going to exhibit at a trade show and you've got your little keychains or pens or notepads or your brochures or literature, that while you're not selling, it's not going to come back out in the same form, fashion, volume and essentially value, that would not be able to be listed on a carnet. Um, Zip ties, AA batteries, tapes, liquids, cleaners, feed for the livestock if you were bringing that, anything consumable or disposable you wouldn't list, and then also postal traffic, but pretty much everything else, including export controlled stuff like ITAR, CITES, FDA, um, anything that is export controlled, while you still have to go about getting those export licenses, it's important to note, sometimes people think, oh, it's hazmat, I can't ship weaponry on a carnet, but you can. It's for the duty and tax part of it. You still have to abide by all domestic and foreign customs regulations, so you'd still need to get those export controls in place, but it's not prohibiting you from putting it on a carnet for a temporary export. So a little bit more of the scope of the use. I already talked about this, accepted currently in 90 plus countries and territories, more countries coming in all the time. It is a single unified document, which is one of the nice things about it. And it can be used for multiple trips into multiple countries. And it's valid for 12 months from the date of issue. So a lot of client calls I will get is, Kyle, I've got a trade show in Australia, but then 3 months later, I've got one in India. I'm assuming I need a different carnet for each country. And the good answer is no. It's not trip or shipment or country specific in most respects, unless that country has a weird restriction, like I said. By and large, you can go pretty much anywhere, and the more you use it, the more economical it becomes. So it is list specific, and we'll delve a little bit deeper into that in a bit, but it is item specific. So as long as you're bringing that same equipment or a subset of that equipment, most countries will accept for a partial import. Like you build a master list and then bring half of it this time and two-thirds of it next time. But you can't add equipment or swap out same for same with different serial numbers once it's been issued because of the bond that goes behind it. It's posted for an exact item set and an exact value. So the more you use it, again, the more benefit you glean from it. It works with both hand-carried items. So if you've got a film crew or a small trade show pop-up display and you could just carry it on or check it into the belly of the plane with you. Again, part of my job, how to coach you how to get that through customs, get it stamped at each point, but then also cargo shipments, and you're not limited to one or the two. We'll ask a lot of this stuff in the initial application, but again, one of the great things people find is how universally it can be used. You could hand carry it there if it's a time frame thing and then ship it back if you want, or vice versa, or ship this time or hand carry next time. And in that vein, it can be issued both directly to the holder, like I said, the owner, the liable party of the goods, or also via their freight forwarder. Either can physically do the logistics of submitting the application or pay for the carnet. Got a lot of clients that are a little bit more hands-off. They say, hey, Expeditors International or SOS Global or DB Schenker, you're handling my shipment. Why don't you go ahead and also apply for the carnet on my behalf? And as long as obviously they would hold power of attorney, which they would hold a customs POA for moving their goods, then they can physically do the application process for them. And it's a little bit more of a one-stop deal for the carnet holder or user. This we won't spend much time on. It's just a fun little graphic of all the countries and territories where the carnet system is in force, again, emerging all the time. Next section here, use of the carnet itself. Start with some conditions that need to be observed, go a little bit into more of the document itself, how it works, and then ending with a document review in this section. So there are some conditions. Main one that we always hammer home the most is you need to abide by the carnet's expiration date. The carnet is valid always for 12 months from the date of issue. Not important to note, not date of first use. So if I issue your carnet today and you don't ship for 3 months, that's fine. If you know it's a one and done, you know that list is locked and loaded, but you kind of just burnt a quarter of the validity of the year's worth of the carnet document. That expiration date is also when you want to have the goods re-imported to the US. Certain countries can limit that. Mexico, for instance, is extremely strict with a 6-month import limit. Your carnet and your bond are always still valid for a year, but on any one given entry into Mexico, they don't allow you in country longer than 6 months at a time. You could go there 10 times for 2 weeks at a time throughout the year it's good for, and that's fine. But certain countries limit. India, for example, if you're coming in under professional equipment, prior to 2019, they only accepted for exhibitions and fairs, but then they opened the floodgates. But one of their caveats is they have a 2 month import window for professional equipment. You can ask for one extension in their case for up to another 2 months, but that's the max. Most countries that do limit will allow for a full extension up to the year. You just have to ask for it, but definitely be cognizant of that. Don't just think that your Carnet, oh, it's good for a year. Well, 8 months later, you're in Mexico and they gave you a 6 month import limit, and then you're within claims territory. So again, that's why it says here, typically within 1 year. Most countries will give you that full year, but always make sure when they stamp it in that you look what they put for the final date of re-export, because you got to get it out and ideally back into the US prior to that expiration date. Again, observe all customs regulations, both domestic and foreign. It is a fantastic tool, but it does not get you outside of any other, customs regulations. You would need to take responsibility for costs incurred by the guarantor. Again, in our case, the USCIB. By that, we mean certain countries, when you violate and you leave the goods there past a year and then they send a claim, sometimes it goes to the council first and they fight it on your behalf. And if they pay the claim, you would obviously need to reimburse them, because as the holder, as the liable party, the duty and tax liability, if you did permanently import, is of course still your responsibility. Return the carnet timely to us. It is still current state a manual paper document. It's kind of like a passport for your goods. They are working on the e-carnet. It is going to come out of the quote unquote Stone Age with all this paper. It's going to happen. They started pilot testing it a little bit before COVID hit. Obviously took a large back seat during the shutdown, but then started back up. Their hope, the whisperings we're hearing, and I think it's a very lofty goal. They're hoping by the end of 2027 it'll be fully digital. I am not 100% confident as an individual that that'll happen. If you can imagine trying to get 90 or so countries or territories on board with the training and technology to accept what was always a paper document, it's going to take a little bit of time. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It is going to be kind of like an app on your phone, but currently it's paper. So once you are done using it, if it's a one-off, or once it expires, make a full scan copy of it, one for your records, but almost more importantly, just in case it were to get lost in the mail, for instance, on the way back to us, but then return it to us. Every single carnet that comes back, sometimes hundreds in a day, gets reviewed by our wonderful claims department. They review it page by page, stamp by stamp, match up the dates, and if it's clean and there's no misstamping, it was used correctly, they'll close it out, cancel the bond liability behind it, shoot you an email saying, hey, look, great job, carnet's been closed, you're good to go. So return it to us so it can get reviewed and closed out. Or if there's a reason we can't close out to you, again, our fantastic claims department will go tooth and nail with you to fight any given claim that we can, again, due to carnet misuse, missing pages, blah, blah, blah. And then that's kind of a reiteration, reimburse any customs payments incurred by the USCIB. Timely re-export. Again, like I said, we hammer it home. The expiration date of the carnet is the date the items should be returned to the US, or at minimum out of the foreign country. Or if they limit that final date of re-export, this is a little snapshot of what we call the importation counterfoil for the foreign countries, and we'll review that a little bit closer when we get to the document review. But the second box says final date for re-export of the goods. They're going to put what that date is there. So always be cognizant of that. Get it out by that date. 90% of the time, if not more, it's going to be that full year. If the goods leave the foreign country after that date, customs can and will charge either the full import duty and tax, or a regularization fee. Now, I get a lot of people that try to push it all the way up to that full year. We always recommend get it stamped out at least a week prior to the expiration date, just in case of congestion at the port or what have you. But then to save money, especially with today's freight costs, they send it back via vessel, when maybe they sent it back their air cargo to make it there on time, but they want to save money. Carnet expires during transit. What happens? Sometimes, and it depends on the port, it really depends on the official. As I'm sure you all know, customs is very discretionary. Sometimes they will accept an expired carnet, especially if it's just a few days or a week, because it is still valid registration of goods with U.S. Customs. They're just U.S. goods returning. There's no duty and tax liability. They will see that it was stamped out of the foreign country by that final date of re-export, which cancels the claim liability, and then they stamp it back in. If they don't, you just have to find another way back in. There's no penalty for not getting that final stamp as long as the claim side, the foreign side, is clear. You just might have to, like I said, file like a U.S. goods return entry or something like that. But always, always, always be cognizant of where your goods are, the expiration date, and especially if they limit that final date of re-export. What if goods can't be re-exported in that year? I don't know, a global unprecedented pandemic shuts the world down for a couple of years. If they can't, or say it doesn't make economical sense for you to freight the goods back just to send it back there under a new fresh carnet for a year, most countries will accept what is called a replacement carnet. One of the many deceptive terms in our world, it's not like, oh, I lost the paperwork, I need a replacement. That to us is a duplicate carnet. Um, the replacement is a new carnet that's issued. It's a new bond that's issued, but it's directly tied to the original carnet, and it's used to extend the stay in that one foreign country. You can't move around like you could with an original one. It's kind of like a just an emergency type. Oh, I need 6 more months. The testing went longer than I thought. It's only used to bring it out of the foreign country and directly back into the US. But it's good to know that that exists. Most countries will accept them. Unlike an original carnet where we turn it around. We practice 24 to 48 hours. Oftentimes, if you get our application in the morning or early afternoon, you stay by your phone and email. We're going to process it that day and overnight it to you. We work in an industry where people need these things yesterday. But the replacement carnet, you need to submit the application at least 3 to 4 weeks prior to expiration. It's a little bit more involved of a process, but Reader's Quick Digest is app comes in, we get a full scan of the current carnet for you, showing the import into the foreign country and all custom stamps. We issue the replacement. We physically take it down to U.S. Customs for you and have it activated. They're not stamping off on the export. Obviously, the goods are already abroad. They're just activating it to turn it into a live carnet by stamping the front green cover page. We then send it directly from our office overseas to marry up with the original. And then all before the original expiration date, both carnets need to be presented to foreign customs. And the short answer is they stamp out the first one and stamp in the new one, kind of cross-referencing each other. At that point, liability is transferred. You can return the first one to us for closure. Only the replacement will then be stamped out of the foreign country when the goods are ultimately re-exported and back into the US. So it's kind of like an extension. You can think of it as an extension. Typical rule of thumb is you get one if that replacement if that country accepts replacements. I've seen two, I've seen three, but as you go on, it's you got to get like direct approval from customs, and it's kind of more rare extenuating circumstances that they will approve it. But it is a good tool. Typically, it does not need to be presented at the port of entry, which is nice because if you're halfway across the country, no one wants to haul their goods all the way back to the POE, or in the EU, you might be in a completely different country. This differs depending on the country. Technically, I don't know the last time I saw any replacement country require that it be presented at the port of entry. I think that was a more of an older rule. I think Canada used to have weird nuances at certain ports about that, but I don't remember the last time. It should just be your local, whatever the local customs port is. Pardon me, mouth's getting dry. The original applicant should apply for the replacement. By that, we mean we're just really protecting you. If we get a forwarder that wasn't listed as an authorized representative that might have lost your paperwork or failed to re-export and didn't tell you and just comes to us directly and says, oh, we need a replacement. Well, you applied for the original as the holder. We need to make sure they're on board and they're applying this for this so they know where their goods are, they know what's going on. Any authorized representative can present it, but the original applicant should be the one who applies. The applicant for the original carnet should be who applies for the replacement carnet. And a little light bulb at the bottom, pro tip, goods can be sold and left in foreign countries off of a carnet. It's not really the intention. It's used mainly, you get the most benefit out of temporary imports, but say, the example I always give is you're a jewelry designer and you have 100 pieces of fine jewelry and you're going to a trunk show in Italy and your hope is that all 100 pieces sell. Yes, that's the dream. That would be fantastic. Well, maybe reality is 1/3 sells, 2/3 doesn't sell. Well, at that point, you would approach customs, let them know what sold and what didn't. Obviously, provide receipts or bill of sale, I'm sure they would ask for. But you would only then pay the import duty and tax on what sold, and you just use the carnet as a phenomenal tool to avoid paying duties and taxes on 2/3 of it that it didn't sell. Or if you're at a show and someone makes you an offer you can't refuse, you never had any intention to sell your widget or whatever it is, but somebody wants to buy it, you can break that liability while in country and sending it back to the US and then back in as a permanent import. So it does happen. It's doable. Lost, stolen, destroyed carnets. This is what we call a duplicate carnet. Again, replacement is for extension, duplicate is for loss of the document within the first 12 months. It's just a new set of paperwork, essentially. Your bond still carries over. We offer, and I'd say 95, 98% of people go with, it's a $30 add-on to the cost of your carnet when you purchase it, but it's a lost, stolen, destroyed warranty. Reader's Digest is you lose the carnet, you get a free one in most instances. It covers up to $600 of processing fees per carnet, but your bond premium carries over, which with high values is a bulk of your carnet cost is, 1% of the 40% that we're posting in bond. 40%, unless you're going to India, is what the bond has to be posted at. India is 55. You pay 1% of the 40% as a bond premium. So you're not cutting a new bond when you get a duplicate. So that 600 usually covers all the processing fees. Most often it is a new carnet at no cost. So small investment for a big payout if it gets lost. And then without it, obviously you'd be paying all the processing fees. The only fee that wouldn't be covered by the warranty is if you didn't have feet on the ground in the US. Say it got lost in Australia. Again, every carnet needs to be activated, just like an original, just like a replacement. They have to stamp the front green cover to turn it into a live carnet with the origin country's customs. So if it's in Australia, you still have to get it stamped by US Customs on the cover before you send it to meet up with your goods. If we do that for you, there would be a messenger fee for that and an activation fee, or we could just send it to you or your broker and they can do it before getting it over there. Also, that $600 can be drawn upon if for some reason you did violate the terms of the carnet and regularization fees were assessed. You can pull from that $600 from the warranty to pay those, which is another nice feature. But it's not an obligation, obviously. It's just a protect your document thing. So conditions to close a carnet, again, hammering it home, re-export by the expiration date, or if there's a limited date assigned by customs, proper validation upon import and export. We'll get to that in a minute, but you need to get it stamped and signed by customs at each point of import and export, including the US side. Carnet document returned to us, and improper use could prevent closing the carnet. If there's a missing stamp from customs, like you got it stamped out of the US into France, running super late for your flight, didn't get it stamped out of France, exhausted, missed customs coming back into the US. Well, now France has a record of an import, but not a re-export. We also don't have US customs confirming the re-import. So if there's missing stamps, again, that's where our claims department comes in. They're going to do everything they can. We'll work with certificates of disposition. We'll do, custom entry summaries for cargo shipments, anything we can do to prove that came back, but that would be a condition. We couldn't close it all the way right away. Physical pages missing, like if they pulled one too many vouchers in the foreign country, and then not all general list items accounted for or returned. So if you did sell a bunch of jewelry or whatever your product is, and you didn't go approach customs and get that receipt and get that validation on the carnet, another reason we wouldn't be able to close it right away. This is just a nice graphic. Internationally, no matter where you get your carnet from, the pages are the same color. They're in the same order. The front and back covers are on green paper. We'll get to what each of these are in a minute. The yellow certificates are for your origin country and us, the US. Those are the counterfoils that get stamped. They're called counterfoils. They're the trip-specific certificates that mark the entry and the exit of the goods, both on the US side and on the foreign side, kind of like the pages of your passport that get stamped. But yellow certificates get stamped by US Customs when you leave and re-enter the US. White counterfoils and vouchers get stamped and signed by foreign customs when you enter and exit the foreign country. And then the blues, I don't like explaining the blues. They're called transit counterfoils. they're kind of rarely used anymore. They were typically originally used for bonded inland travel to get you from one port to another port in bond. Like if you're going into Italy with jewelry and John Smith customs agent at the main port didn't feel comfortable, being no expert in fashion or jewelry, validating and confirming $500,000 worth of jewelry, so they get you in bond with a blue transit from the main port to an offsite port that specializes in jewelry, and then make the formal entry there with the white counterfoil. There are 6 countries that require them to be in there. If you've ever seen blue pages in a carnet we issued, it's probably because you were going to Bulgaria, China, Italy, Poland, Russia, or Switzerland. Even those countries in today's climate rarely use them, if ever. Um, I'm hoping when the e-carnet comes, the blues kind of go away. But if you're going to one of those countries, we'll make sure that they're in there. Again, part of our job as the issuing authority, or the issuing agent, rather. This is in order of when you open up your folder, this is in the order of the pages. This next graphic is in the order of the use. That's why you'll see the yellow come back. And let me do a time check here. Let me try to breeze through this. So the front cover is your heart of your carnet. The front green cover, it's got your carnet number, your expiration date, your list of authorized representatives, all the countries that it's good for. It's got the US activation stamped by customs. It's got your activation signature. It's got your company name, your expiration, your carnet number, and on the reverse, and it'll make a little bit more sense when we breeze through the next part, is your master general list. It's another deceptive term. Almost it's not general, it's more detailed. It's akin to a commercial invoice, but rather than needing like HTS codes or customs classification codes, it's more physical identifiers like make, model, and serial number, each piece ideally on its own line, unless it's minor low value stuff that you can lump together. But make, model, and serial number, part number, any sort of physical identifiers that John Smith, U.S. Customs agent, being completely outside of your realm of work and your commodity type, can say, okay, look, clearly what's in front of me is what's listed on the carnet. I can match it up to the digit. They know you're bringing in the right stuff. Your bond was posted correctly. And the key thing for them, the duty and tax is guaranteed correctly. So when you present a carnet for the first time, again, U.S. Customs has to stamp the front green cover, but they're immediately, say this is a hand carry trip, they're immediately going to go to the next page, the yellow counterfoil page, and they're going to stamp you out of the country for this trip. There's always going to be 4 boxes on the first page: export 1, re-import 1, export 2, re-import 2. If you needed more, they would be in numerical order after that, but it always comes with 2 sets. Even if it's a one and done trip to one country and back, you always want at least 1 buffer in there in case of any misstamping by customs, etc. But they'll stamp you out of the country on the very first box, yellow exportation number 1. You go, you fly to, I don't know, the Netherlands. You walk in with your camera equipment, you go through customs, let them know you have a carnet. They will stamp the white importation counterfoil. It's going to look exactly the same as the yellow, and we'll see it in a second. But instead of export and re-import, it says import and re-export because you're importing into the foreign country. So they'll stamp your import number 1 counterfoil box. Your counterfoils are for you. That's your record. That's your receipts. Those stay in your carnet. But in the foreign countries, there's also pages behind that are called vouchers that have a copy of your list and another place for a stamp and signature by customs. U.S. Customs in particular does not use yellow vouchers. There's no pages that get pulled and kept by customs when you leave and re-enter the U.S. Causes a bit of confusion because most international carnets do. We're actually the only country that we know of that worldwide that issues carnets for 2 different countries, the US and in the UK. We call it the boomerang benefit. There's a lot of trade crossover between the US and the UK. So we issue carnets in the UK as well with our sister corp over there. They do have yellow vouchers for their counterfoils. But on a US one, the vouchers that are stamped, signed, and removed when you enter and you exit the foreign country and kept by customs, they're numbered the same. So your import counterfoil number 1, they'll stamp when you enter the Netherlands. They'll flip the page, stamp, sign, and pull and keep your import number 1 voucher as their receipt, their record of the entry. The blues are the blues. Again, just kind of ignore them. When you go to leave, you will present the goods and the carnet to customs in the Netherlands. They will stamp your re-export number 1 counterfoil. They're called a set because they're paired off. Import 1 when you enter, re-export number one when you leave. That's your proof that you left with the goods. They'll stamp, sign, remove, and keep that re-export white voucher. That's their receipt. That way, when this carnet expires, they have an import voucher and a re-export voucher. Look, he came in, he followed the rules, he entered on this day, he exited on this day, and that's how you avoid the claim. One last time coming back into the US, you'll get your yellow re-import number one or whatever number you're on, stamped closing out the loop and essentially not including the front green on a first trip. And that activation is only ever once. It's 4 stamps. US out, foreign in. You go, you do your show, and then on the reverse, it's a reverse. You get stamped out of the foreign country on the white and stamped back in on the yellow. And that last green cover kind of just notes on the carnet, list of all the countries, the guaranteeing associations, what underlying conventions they accept. And this part I'm going to breeze through in the interest of time. This is the front cover. Again, the heart or the meat and potatoes. That bottom left gray shaded area, that's where the activation stamp is by customs. Your carnet number's in the top right. Bottom right, box J, signature of holder. That is your activation signature, and this is your registration, an export registration with U.S. Customs. If anybody has ever filled out the U.S. Customs Form 4455, also called a certificate of registration, you do not need to do that when you're doing a carnet shipment or a carnet hand carry. So it's less paperwork, less hassle. This acts as that registration. When it comes back to the US, that proves that they're US goods returning, duty and tax was already paid to the US economy, and you clear back in, coming back into the US. This is the backside. This is blank. This is your general list. This example is blank, but it's first got your description with any identifiers, your quantity, your weight. The weight is the only category you could technically leave blank. It's recommended to put it if you know it, but it's the only category that can be left blank. Next is your value, which is your insured or replacement value. And last is your country of origin, which is your manufacturing country. That's another kind of lenient one with customs. A lot of times people just put the US because that's a country of origin as far as export. But itemized list, another part of my job is to review that with you with a fine-tooth comb. We know what customs likes to see. We'll ask you to remove consumables if you have them on there. We'll ask for serial numbers if you didn't know they needed to be listed. How you dictate it and how you group it. Some people do like items, some people do it by the case. As long as the items themselves are on there, how you organize the actual order is up to you. I've seen general lists that are 30, 40 pages long, like state orchestras, thousands of instruments and bows and what have you. But that's your general list page. These are the yellow counterfoils. Like I said, export one, re-import one. Even though this says void on number 2, you always get 2 sets on initial carnet. After that, you can order them either on the front end or as you go. Again, no vouchers for yellows, validated from the US when you leave and re-enter with US Customs. The yellow always for the US, white always for the foreign country. Same, but it's reversed. Import one, re-export one. Always big blue arrow here. Always pay attention to that final date of re-export. Make sure they didn't limit. Don't just assume you have the year. Likely you will, but don't just assume. Always make sure you check it physically or have your freight forwarder scan you a copy if it's a cargo shipment and be cognizant of that. There's always boxes on the back side of the page too, but they'll say void if you didn't purchase them. This is an example of the white import voucher. Again, that's customs receipt when you enter. You will sign it at the bottom in their presence with a hand carry. The right half shaded in gray, anything shaded, which most of the document is for customs use only. Boxes D through F is like means of transport, packaging details, item numbers. On a hand carry, I don't usually recommend filling that out or signing it until you're in the presence of foreign customs because they might have their own finite ways of doing things. They might just very well have you sign it and pull it. But if they want you to fill out the left half, A through C are filled out for you with your holder and carnet info. D through F, they may or may not have you fill out, but they'll let you know if and how, but they'll pull that when you enter. Here's the re-export, same, but on the re-export, they'll pull that and keep it with foreign customs. The blues are the blues. They usually are not used. They also have vouchers for them. This is an example of our instruction sheet. It goes out with every hard copy carnet that leaves my office. One side says cargo shipments, one side says hand carry. It was actually my project. I think during COVID to revamp it into this iteration that it is now. I'm pretty OCD, so I tried to make it as point by point but reader friendly as possible. So give that a read through. We try to make these instructions bulletproof, but always, if it's your first time or two, please don't hesitate to call me, walk through it page by page. It may look a little bit Greek at first if it's your first couple of times, but once we walk through it together, it'll be a piece of cake. Last one, Carnet compliance. This is a quick section, don't worry. How an ATA Carnet can benefit you, and then we'll end with our customer service. This, in the interest of time, we have a very elongated version of this in paragraph form on our website. Um, Best practices. I'm just going to read these off verbatim. Know your obligations and responsibilities with the carnet, especially if you're hand carrying. Read and follow all the instructions. Require employer training or employee training. Again, part of my job. You got a new crew on. We're happy to, at no charge, offer a personal consulting or training webinar. I've traveled for people. Retain a copy. When you get it, make a copy of it. After you get it stamped, make a copy or snap a picture on your cell phone. Make a copy when you get it back before you return it to us. That way, if it does get lost, we have that digital paper trail of what happened with all the custom stamps, and we can use that to fight any potential claims for you. Require regular notification by your freight forwarder, have them send you scans of the copy, keep you apprised as to where your goods are, what the expiration date is. Use the online Carnet reports. There is a vast array of reporting in your portal with us when you create your account, which there's no cost to do. Once you start getting more and more carnets under your belt, you can run reports on unsubmitted applications, submitted but not processed applications, expiring carnets, already expired carnets, everything. So use those to maintain compliance. Use our expiration notifications. We send out emails. The USCIB contacts you. Hey, you got 3 months left, blah, blah, blah. And then this is just more about once you're in your online account, there is a lot of compliance tools on there. These are links, and we will disseminate this, of course. There's that best practices expanded. There's the instruction sheet. There's a Making Carnets Easy video series. And why the carnet? Key takeaway, if you take nothing else from this, it is a money saver. One fee, cover all the chosen goods for a full 12 months. You're not doing temporary imports into each country. You're not paying duties and taxes. It's on hand. It's ready to go for the year. Multiple trips, multiple countries. The more you use it, the more economical it becomes. Just a few more examples, fun little graphics of different ways you can utilize the carnet. I have clients that get like pigeonholed and use it only for professional equipment when they don't think about also using it for their trade show booths. So try to take advantage of how universal it is. This I'll pause on just real quick before we jump over to Q&A. This just kind of shows you broad strokes of how much money you can save. This is a case study I did when I ran the report. This particular holder with us had done 59 carnets, traveled all over the world. Total value of the goods they covered on those 59 carnets was $2 million. Their total out-of-pocket cost for everything, bond fee, processing, if they needed replacements, FedEx shipping charges was 28,668, which may sound like a big number, but when you say duty and tax can range up to 40% of the value of the goods, even if that's the orange boxes in the bottom left, even if it's 20%, that's $400,000 higher on 40%. That's $800,000 versus less than 30 grand. If duty is duty, it's often recoverable, sometimes easier said than done. But if we look at the VAT tax only, China, 17%, just the taxes, 340 grand. Sweden, a little higher, 25%, 500K. Canada, one of the lowest, if not the lowest, 5%, 100 grand. So just kind of shows in black and white how much cost savings you can really benefit from the carnet. A little bit about us. We are truly a 24/7 company. Call our 800 number. Check us out on Trustpilot. I don't know if anybody's seen that. Our rep says you don't know what put in the water over there, but 24/7 is not a lie. I've issued carnets on Christmas Eve before, evenings, weekends. The 800 number goes direct to our president and CEO, Kurt Wilson, after hours. If he can't help you out, he's always on, probably more than he cares to admit, especially with the time difference between our US and UK office. But if he can't help you out, he'll get you over to somebody on my team who's on call that time, and we really do care. I mean, it's not a line. We are invested in you. We want to see you using these. We want to see you using them right. That's our 800 number, not like any other 800 number. It goes right to my team on operations. No annoying menus. You're going to get somebody in 2 to 3 rings. That is our website. Another thing, if you take nothing away from, just check out our website. There is a wealth of information and resource on the Carnet system in general. We've got airport maps where customs are, video series, click to chat, click to call. That's our operations team mailbox, carnets@atacarnet.com. We respond pretty much right away during business hours. That is our socials. I am not a social media guy, but if that's your thing, that's us there. And again, we will disseminate this. So you'll have all this, and I am sorry for misjudging the middle part. That's not usually like me, but got excited. That's my info. Again, looks like Keel said like Kyle, direct email, direct phone. And with that, I will turn it back to Fred.
Wow, that's what I got to say.
Sorry.
Kyle, amazing presentation. I just want to take a moment and just summarize the importance, in particular, in my experience that goes back in the 80s when I was head of Hughes Aircraft. General Motors definitely utilized Boomerang Carnet. And I think one of the things that Kyle highlighted was 15.9 Carnets, 2 million savings of 28,000. And that's just a small example in terms of the savings on that. But in the meantime, I've got some questions that came up from some of you. And Carl, if you don't mind, if I could run a couple of them through you. One
Yeah.
questions that came up was my goods on Carnet came back, but I still got a claim from foreign customs. Uh, what do I do?
That's where, again, my astute colleagues in our claims department are going to step in and save the day. Likely what happened with that is it got stamped again out of the US into the foreign country, but did not get stamped out of the foreign country. So foreign customs, once a carnet expires, which is again 12 months from the date of issue, has 13 months from the expiration date. It's kind of like a statute of limitations. Once the expiration date hits, they have 13 months to file a claim. So if they have an import voucher or an import entry record, but not a re-export record, they're going to say, okay, well, you sold the stuff here or left them here, so pay me duties and taxes. They're going to come try to collect their duty and tax. Quickest, easiest, strongest way, probably, and I'm, speaking on behalf of my claims department right now, but if you didn't get it stamped out of the foreign country, but did get it stamped back into the US, that's kind of like our get out of jail free card. It proves that no matter what happened, hey, maybe it was your customs office that was closed, but we have John Smith, US Customs agent, proving that the goods did come back into the US after the date it entered into your country and before the carnet expired. Claim goes away. Next one, if you didn't get it stamped coming back into the US either, they'll probably do next step in line is a certificate of disposition or show a customs entry summary, but that's usually due to misstamping or missing pages.
Right. Another question that came up quite frequently, I'm familiar with that. There seems to be some confusion. Question was, when I use a carnet, do I still need an export license such as ITAR, EAR,
If
and
your
others?
goods if your goods are controlled export, yes, you still need to abide by those export licenses. Um, it's also again important to note that doesn't prohibit you from putting the goods on the carnet, but all domestic and foreign customs regulations, including export controls, still need to be adhered to.
Excellent. One final question here. Does a carnet work if I'm driving across a border like Canada or Mexico with my equipment and goods?
It does. Instead of getting it stamped at the airport, you would stop at, again, all these horses that I do every summer, hundreds and hundreds of them. They'll drive to the border, they'll stop at US Customs first, they'll stamp it out, drive over the border, Canadian Customs stamps it in, they go, they do their exhibition, and then on the reverse, it's a reverse. Stop at Canadian Customs before they go out, they stamp it out, and then one last time stamping it in. Everybody goes through customs when you enter a country, but be it by sea, by air, or by road, with a carnet, you have to seek out US customs prior to leaving. It would just happen at the border instead of the airport.
This has been an excellent presentation. I
There
love
are
the
more
name
questions.
Boomerang. One second, let me just finish for a second now, Heidi. I love boomerang. When you throw that boomerang, it does come back to boomerang carnet. I thought this was an excellent presentation. But I before we disconnect, I think what's important here, we want to get your feedback
Yeah.
on this webinar. And as far as I'm concerned, I think these are some excellent presentation by Kyle. And with that, I'm going to have Heidi say a few words. Heidi, go ahead.
Oh, yes, sure. Actually, there are a couple more questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, I did not see that, but go ahead and mention that, Heidi.
Sure. The first one is, how much are the additional vouchers?
It's a very good question. They are equivalent to $25 per certificate, regardless of color. So if you're making one round trip to Canada and back, you would need one yellow and one white. Post the issuance of the carnet, it's really weird how the US Council does it. There is a minimum purchase order of $80 and it covers 4 certificates. So you're kind of getting a $20 discount because otherwise, if you got 2 yellows and 2 whites, that would be 100, but you have to pay for FedEx again. After that 4 sets, if you needed 5 or more, for some reason it goes away. Easiest way to think about it is $25 or $50 a round trip to one country and back.
Okay, and the next one, Karen Robertson says, I'm on the West Coast with no carnet issuers nearby, dependent upon CIB overnighting a new carnet to me from Chicago. Is it worthwhile to get a carnet printer in my office to be able to print my own issued carnets until the e-carnet is live in all countries?
We have a vast network of remote printers throughout the US. I think we've got probably 20 or 30 printers, LA, New York, Dallas, New Jersey, Connecticut, Michigan, Washington, Oregon. So it's something that we do with people. It's above my pay grade. You'd have to talk to our president and CEO, Kurt Wilson. It can't be printed out just on any regular printer, though. But if you're West Coast and you're in the LA area, for instance, we do have a couple printers already over there. But yeah, it's something that we do talk to people about. It's just a conversation that you'd have to have with somebody higher up the chain than myself.
Excellent. Any more questions that came up, Heidi?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Well, listen, on behalf of the National District Export Council, and certainly our partner, Boomerang Carnets, and of course, the U.S. Department of Commerce. Unfortunately, our colleagues, they're shut out and government shut down, but make sure you access that ita.gov that Heidi provided. And also, Heidi will be popping up a survey, just posting it. And please answer the survey as soon as you can. And with that, we're taking off. We have an upcoming last webinar coming up. And I think one of the most important part, you as exporters, and those are in international trade, if you want to expand many of your products and services, please reach out to me or Heidi. We accept sponsorship, just like Boomerang has kindly supported us, Boomerang Carnets. And these kind of webinars are so important on behalf of U.S. exporters. With that, thank you very much, everybody. And I believe also that this is being recorded, correct, Heidi? And you'll be
Yes,
getting a
it's
copy
being
of that.
recorded. Yes, I have. Actually, there's one more question. Mr. Art Adams. Let's see here. Is he still on? Mr. Art Adams. Yes, he was wanting to ask a question verbally.
All right. Well, let's, in
Good
interest of
morning.
time,
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. Hey, Kyle, how's it going?
Yeah.
I had one question, please.
Yeah.
As you know, we've been issuing a lot of carnets during the past year, and it's been a huge benefit for our company for shipping our aircraft to all these international demos. And the majority of these carnets are for cargo that we're shipping by air freight or by ocean freight. However, we've had a few instances, one instance in particular with our photographers who are going in and out of these venues for the media and with their photography equipment, and they're using the carnets as a hand carry.
Mhm.
And so the only complaints that we've been getting are from our photographers. Sometimes they say it's just a lot of downtime and dwell time at some of these customs airports, and just wondering if there's any tricks or tips you might have to facilitate that. They were just coming back from the Osaka World Fair demo for our big Osaka demo, and they spent 2 hours there at the customs airport. I'm not sure if it was Narita or Haneda, or it was probably in Osaka, but KIX, but they spent 2 hours there trying to find somebody to sign off the carnets for re-export, and nobody really knew what a carnet was there in Japan at that particular airport. And just wondering if you have any shortcuts, or because they really would prefer not to ship their cargo I mean, we can ship it in a Pelican case and put it in a crate and ship it ahead of time, but they're using their equipment for other domestic demos here, and time is of the essence. So if we were to ship their photography equipment ahead of time, they would lose days on the front end before they needed it overseas. So any help that you could offer with respect to streamlining getting carnets signed off with foreign customs in certain countries would be great.
Yeah, it's getting tough right now with especially with all the trade and tariff stuff with all the congestion at customs ports. So we definitely hear it. And yes, sometimes customs agents are more familiar than others. It may sound silly, my recommendation is always contact them in advance. We have that handy airport slash customs maps page on our website. We don't have every port in the world, but a lot of major ones, including those two you mentioned, we do, and they have phone
Mhm.
numbers on them.
Okay.
It's got locations. We only publish them when we get confirmed info from a customs resource. That being said, things can change. We kind of just do it as a courtesy, but it's a really, really helpful tool that people have a lot of experience, have gotten a lot of use out of. But there's key thing on there is the phone numbers that should go direct to those customs offices, and then just call them and ask them, look, this is my travel date, this is my travel time. Is there an appointment that I can set? Is there going to be somebody in your office? How much time on a given Tuesday should I leave myself? If I need to do an off hours validation, can I come the day before? Always try to go right to the source. Or when you're entering into the country, if you're coming out of that same port, just like I always recommend contacting US Customs in advance so you know your where's, when's, and how's, especially in today's climate. You're not running around scrambling trying to get this stamped at the last minute. Well, when you're talking to them and getting your in stamp anyways, it's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, look, I'm going to be here for a week or whatever the case may be. Is there, a plan of attack? Do I come back to this desk? Do I go to a certain office? What's my trying to follow the rules here? What is my strongest and best course of action as far as your port's logistics in particular? Because every port and every customs office is, so discretionary and different in the way they handle their finite procedures.
Mhm. Okay, great. Thank you. And that resource is on your website with
Yeah,
those.
there's a drop down that says resources, then you go down to travel tools, and then it's airport maps.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate
Really
it.
good resource. Not a problem, guys.
Fantastic,
Thanks, Cody.
everyone. And Kyle, thank you again. And please mention to Mr. Wilson on behalf of Boomerang Carnets, of course, you guys are a great partner. Look forward to having you come out maybe during the World Trade Conference on the West Coast, which I've been leading for the last 33 years.
Wow. Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity. And if anybody wants to reach out to me directly or my team, that's what we're here for. So don't hesitate. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye.
Stay well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.